You want to improve at chess and you have one big issue that is keeping you from skyrocketing your elo. And it is that you have been listening to the wrong chess teachers, but now you have me. So, other chess teachers will tell you stuff like we saw in the previous video. Most teachers just tell you to either memorize your opening, but then you don't know what to do in the middle game, or just understand your opening, but then you will probably make mistakes in the middle game and the beginning. So I do both, and I am making a course to help you a lot with and memorizing and understanding your openings. Like I have this part memorized, but from the point that we go into a later opening stage, I do understand my opening, and I have a lot of sample lines in my course, which will make it that you just know your plans and you know what to do and you know why you are doing them. That will help you a lot. The other thing we saw in the previous video, most chess teachers will just tell you to make your puzzles and that's it. That's very easy and vague advice. I will tell you why. It's not just that you see the tactics and that's it. Because if I were to throw you into a position where there is a tactic and you find it, okay, good job, but that's not practical. I want you to think about this game like I try to put pressure and then I will be able to exchange my pressure into a tangible advantage. And if you succeed in doing that, you will have something tangible like an extra pawn or structural damage or a target. That's basically it. So I'll talk and do the thinking later. So in the previous video, you saw how I could just um, have a draw, but then I saw a tactic, and my opponent could have defended it, but go for the structural damage, and that was a whole other lesson. Or I could have taken a free pawn, gotten structural damage, and tried to proceed the game from there, where I'm slightly better, but it is a draw. And I saw a tactic on top of my tactic after my tactic. And that's not coincidence. I saw something that's very useful, a tactic that stops all of his plans. Then I saw a tactic which would give me at least the benefit of a structural advantage. And then I saw another tactic on top of that that just won me the game and my opponent resigned. And it is because I'm constantly thinking about, okay, I have this advantage, but is that really the best I have? Can I still go for even something more and get more pressure on top of my pressure? I learned this the hard way, by the way, and I'm just giving you this for free. I learned this when I was like 1400 fighting a 1600, and he had a free pawn, didn't take it, but more pressure. Had a free piece, didn't take it, but more pressure. After that, he just checkmated me. And that's it. And I was like, damn. He had free stuff and just constantly put more pressure, and won the game. So I know in this position, usually if he doesn't play c5, I should play d5. But if the bishop moves, I usually also have things like queen to g3. If I play queen to g3, he will just have something like bishop to h4, pinning my queen to my king. So let's go for this, get the bishop out, get the knight out, and get my knight to a active square. I don't know why he did that. So let's just keep developing. Maybe he wants his bishop here, but I don't know why that would be useful. Um, okay, fine. So I can just move my queen. Don't move it here, same tactic. So let's move it here so that if you do this, I can just kick the bishop and it didn't achieve anything. Um, I can also kick this bishop if I want to. Um, but usually this is the plan. So let's do that. I can also just make a one mover so that he just has to defend something very random, which he probably doesn't want to defend. And I know my opening till probably here. From here on out, it's mainly understanding and knowing the patterns because in my course, I have a lot of sample lines. I do know all of the patterns quite well. So we finally got a other Vienna Gambit main line. If you're confused, this is my opening course. Most chess teachers tell you to either memorize or understand your opening, but trust me, the power is in doing both. And that's why I'm designing a complete course for you to help you do exactly that. So after e4, e5, knight to c3, our opponent goes for knight to f6. I don't face this a whole lot anymore, but I know to play f4, going for the gambit. If he were to take, we get into fantastic lines because the knight cannot go to any of these and probably has to go back. Queen to e7 also happens a lot at like 1200, 1300 level, pinning this. But after queen to e2, you are already completely winning. Like this. That's a check, that's this, and after the king runs, you just have this check, and he will have to sack the queen. Very aggressive lines, very nice lines. So taking isn't the best, and the actual refutation of this opening is d5. After d5, you should just know to take the pawn. Usually, you never take that pawn. You really want to be taken, but only in the main line we take. And after he takes our e pawn, we have queen to f. 3. Developing the queen too early. Usually, you shouldn't develop the queen this fast, but if you know what to do, you can break opening rules, which is a big step towards mastery. So, in the game, he took, so we will only look towards those lines. Of course, just the principle is always take towards the center, and in most cases, you do so. There are, I think, two lines we take with the D pawn. No, one line where we take with the D pawn, but it doesn't matter. Usually we just take with the B pawn. Very normal stuff. And here my opponent played bishop to e7, and I have everything memorized until here. From here on out, my memorization fades and I just begin to understand my opening. I know from here on out that if he does not play c5, I play d4. If he plays c5, I need my queen on g3, just putting some pressure, defending the pawn, because I will not really be able to defend it with another pawn. And if he doesn't play c5, I know to play d4. That's it. So that is just some basic understanding. And here I only included kingside castle. In the game, we actually played faced h5. But that's exactly what I tell you. If you have the beginning memorized, you will understand the position so well that you don't have to memorize everything in the middle game anymore. So I just know that the plan is to put my bishop here, put my knight here, castle kingside to put massive pressure, maybe advance this pawn in some variation. Sometimes my bishop has to take this diagonal, sometimes it's traded off, sometimes it's sacrificed. This bishop is very potent, and in a lot of variations, we put the rook on b1, especially if this pawn is not defended anymore, because it's just a random tempo move, and we improve our rook, and he will probably have to push the pawn, so we don't actually waste a move, but we do improve our rook. So I don't have anything memorized. I only include kingside castle and I just know to develop the bishop. If he develops the bishop, I know to develop the knight. And if he develops the knight, I know to develop the knight towards this square. And if he just does something random, I really want to show you our plans. So this is not a good move, but I include some weird lines just for you to know the threat. So in this variation, we do have the threat of taking the bishop. Now our queen is under attack, but we have this move. That is a fork. We attack this pawn, we attack that pawn. You cannot save both. So we already have some tactical issues and things we are threatening. So I know that's usually where the game goes towards. You also have lines with c5, and c5 is trying to trap the bishop after knight to e2. So if we were to play knight to e2 and you attack the bishop, we only have f5. So after this, I include a line with c4, bishop goes to f5, take and take, and then we just proceed. If you attack our queen, we have g4 to defend, and after take and take, we have this structure where we just have this permanent weakness to attack, and we can maybe even advance, break open the king. Very nice and easy IDs. And if he plays g4, you really gotta understand the point of this. The point is that after c4, we cannot trade the bishop on f5 anymore. So here you have to move the knight so that if he attacks the bishop, we can just go back. So if he now develops the bishop, we can castle and we will more or less almost transpose. We have this pressure. In these types of structures, an h pawn push is a lot of the times a plan, but not if he controls h4, of course. And we can maybe take, rotate our queen, get our bishop on h6, maybe sag the knight or rotate the knight to g5. We have a lot of plans, a lot of sacrifices. It's an awesome position. So yeah, and that is for the main line. Obviously, we didn't get this. We got h5, but trust me, if you know the patterns, you would have found all of the moves I will play. I will already spoil you. I will play at 96% accuracy. I will play a perfect opening. And it's not because of pure memorization, but because I know the patterns that I just showed you, that I even know the best move without the inclusion of h5. And I don't know the actual position one by one, but I just know the plans and tactics, and that's how I found a very clean knockout. If that is deserving of your subscription, you know the button, and if you're not convinced, let's go back. Um, I know that in this position, usually I play something like knight to e2. I do have to be careful for something like d4, but that does not trap my bishop because I still have bishop to f5. But I do also have to be careful after something like knight to e2. There are lines with g6 that try and trap my bishop like that, but then I can just escape with my knight so that after something like c4 happens, I still have the e2 square. So I can safely go here. This looks like it traps my bishop, but I can just go here. So it's absolutely nothing. And if I trade the bishop, get my queen that far advanced, and probably just get my knight out somewhere, I should have an awesome position. By the way, I can also now castle with something that looks like a checkmating threat. Maybe not now, but in a couple of moves. And if I win the f pawn, by the way, the added benefit is that I have a protected passed e pawn. I always tell you about winning positions and win conditions. Um, I have a bit more activity, but probably a slightly worse pawn structure. So I wouldn't call this winning. Maybe the engine disagrees and tells me that I'm winning. Um, I also have to think about I can castle after take. I have take. You have to run. That might be fruitful, but I don't think so. So let's move the bishop here. That was always my plan. And after takes and takes, I can still castle with a checkmating threat. Um, yeah, this looks fantastic. So I should have a very good position now. Um, I really want to castle and have a lot of pressure on his potentially weak king or potentially weak d pawn combined with the open b file. So I have way more activity So maybe my position will be close to winning now, but then I still have to make a win condition. So that is where I left my explanation. A win condition is a way to win the game. So if you have a winning position, you are up some material, up some structural something like just pawn structure, or up activity, or up king safety. And in those positions, you are winning, but you don't have a clear way to win. You only have two win conditions. So you have to try and convert your winning position into a win condition. So my opponent took, and I'm actually very inclined to take with the king. Maybe this is the plan, but I can just retreat and there's nothing. I'm very inclined to take with the king. I don't know why. My king feels very safe. My rooks will be connected, and I don't even have to castle now. And the center is so locked. The only way he opens up is like this, and then I can just put a rook behind it. After take, I have some check that does not trap my bishop. I can go here. I still have this awesome thing, and now rook to f1 is actually a checkmating attack. I have a checkmating threat because I cover d7. And if you have to defend checkmate with rook to f8, I can just attack it. So now I think I have a winning position. So let's convert it into a win condition. My winning position is because of my activity and how weak his king is. So in those positions, if the king is weak and you have more activity, probably your win condition will be to start a checkmate attack. Other than that, you should try and create a passed pawn. So if I get into a position where this should be winning, right? Yeah, this should be winning. So I think he will have to sacrifice something to survive. Now I'm threatening checkmate in one. The only way you cover checkmate in one is I didn't see that move, I cannot lie. Oh god. Okay. Um okay, but that it's still bad. That's funny. So yeah, you can cover checkmate like that, but now I have a tremendous pressure on this pawn. It's only defended by the king and the rook, so I can attack the rook, and this is a very easy tactical thing where you just attack the defender of something, and now I have the threat of rook moves. I take with a check, you will have to move, and this will be mate. This is probably a video about understanding and memorizing your openings. I did memorize the beginning. Other than that, I just understand that it's my plan to play d4, get my bishop to d3, get everything quite active, and just win. Just attack and win. So I think this is another error I could take. And after take, your knight is also hanging. So after take, if king takes, that's mate. And he's trying to do takes and king take, but then by the way, still your knight is hanging. But I can take the rook. If you take, that's mate. If you take with the queen, your knight is hanging. And this is undefended, so this is still a threat. So if you want to save your knight somehow, that will still lead to a mate. So he thought maybe there was hope there, but there really is not. So what I was saying that I just know the plans, how I should develop my pieces, and that's because of all of the sample lines in my course. Other than that, I don't really have anything memorized. I just know the plans. And yeah, if the queen moves, I can take, and I probably should have something. I don't see it yet. I can do this. If you take, I can take with a check. You will have to take. I can take with a check. You will have to take. I have check, and my passed pawn should be incredible. If you don't take, by the way, I can take with a check, and after moves, I should have something. So This is putting more pressure. That's basically what the previous video is about. This is a way to just put more pressure. If this, by the way, so I cannot take because of the pin, I can take. And if you take back, it's unpinned. So I am up a rook, but I'm not really using my rook. So I should still think about this being draw-ish until I put my rook in the game. I did not see that move. Um, okay. So I can attack the bishop and the pawn if you defend. Okay. Um, so I can do this. You will have to defend, and then the bishop is not trapped, sadly enough. Um, can I just attack like this now? The point is that really, if I can take, my rook is now active, and that's probably my biggest issue, that my rook is not active. Um, if I do this though, and you will have to defend, I can now get my queen into the game. I don't know what I'm threatening yet. Maybe queen to d6 is better because I'm threatening a pawn. So I'm thinking this to attack and attack, and you will probably have to defend it, and then I can just sneak in to attack. Um, yeah, that looks good. What if I do this and you do this? Then I can take. Yeah, so let's go for that. So I'm still thinking about how do I put more pressure and how do I get my pieces more active. So, oh, he's trying to take because of the pin. That's sneaky. So I should unpin probably or defend. Um, if I do this, you do something like this, and I don't know what I have achieved. If I do this to defend my bishop, um, yeah, that looks fine. So now again, I have more activity, and you should think about threats. So I'm only up a rook, but I'm not using my rook. So I'm still thinking about this like a equal game, and my king is not that safe. So my opponent should try and go for counterplay. His only counterplay will probably be a checkmating attack. That's why he's trying to set up tricks and open up my king and exploit the weakness of my king. And I will have to try and get more active, maybe do something like this and this, but I don't see a future on this. You take? Why would you take? I can now take, and if you take, it's unpinned. I think that's a error of my opponent. My opponent thought this is pinned and attacked twice, only defended once, so I can take. But after take and take, it's not pinned anymore, so the pawn now defends. He probably calculated queen takes, and I cannot take back because of the king, the pin. So I can take, and I will lose this pawn, but I'm up a rook. Or I can just ignore and attack this. Yeah, so I'm up a lot. I'm up a lot. So nothing is hanging. Let's just activate a rook. He will probably play b6. And that is just trying to pacify my rook. Maybe I just give away a pawn for the simplicity of it. Yeah, that's just trying to keep my rook out, which is valid. If I check, I mean, you still don't have a threat, so I might set up something like this. What are you trying to do? I have no clue, so let's try and open up some files for my rooks. My rooks are only nice if I have an actual way of using them, and I need open files for that. So he might try to take, and I don't think I can defend this pawn. But I mean, I don't know what that does. I mean, it unpins the pawn, but I don't care. I think after take, I have a new pin. take. What if I check? And you cannot block with the queen. Yeah, I don't know. I will have something. I should be quite careful though. Oh, he just gave up. Okay, sad. I really wanted to show you how I convert this, but let's do that in the analysis. So let's go back to the very educational thing. Let me do this first with my new overlay. We played 96% accuracy and only got one good move. Other than that, we have 5 excellent moves, 13 top engine moves with 5 book moves and 1 great move. Arguably, I needed 2 great moves, but we will get a closer look at that. A estimate rating of 2,450 with a great opening and a great middle game. We played insane. If I get banned, I know it is because of this game. And he was 1911. My top rating is 1900, so he is above my peak. That's funny. So e4, e5, I have this memorized with knight to c3, knight to f6. Then we go for the gambit. If he takes the gambit, we kick the knight and it cannot come forward, so it has to go backwards. There is also this line where he pins the pawn to the king, but as you see, this is already a blunder. You get this a lot around 1100 to 1300, by the way. A lot of games go like this. If you are 1000 and you just learn these lines, you will go crazy. But our opponent played d5, which is the top engine line and the refutation of this opening. You will see that our opponent was quite well prepared. And from the moment he didn't memorize the opening, he instantly goes wrong. So this is a person which clearly just memorizes his opening but doesn't actually understand them. So after f takes e5, just memorization, and knight to e4, I play queen to f3, and now you see it's minus zero point 0.4, which is bad. That's very, very bad, but it's still a theory move. I know what I'm doing, and I very much like this opening. Theoretically speaking, we are losing, but it's a very good opening still. So my opponent took, giving me back the advantage. The best move is f5, which fights for the advantage, but then I just know to kick the knight and go from there. But my opponent took instantly, which is still opening. And then I have memorized b takes on c3. There is only, I think, one variation where we take with the d pawn, but let's not go too deep. So b takes on c3. This is taking towards the center, opening up this line, maybe opening up for the bishop in the future, and fighting for the center in the opening. You should always fight for the center with pawns and only then with pieces. So now we establish another pawn fighting for the center. I have everything memorized until here. From here on out, I have a very, very good understanding of the position. My opponent plays e7, top engine move. I didn't even know that. So my opponent clearly has one move more theory than me. And I just understand that if he plays c5, we go with queen going to g3. And we defend our center because we will not be able to defend it with a pawn. And we put pressure here so that he cannot develop the bishop easily. And we proceed from there. If he doesn't play c5, we always play d4 basically. And apparently e7, top engine move, but it's not c5, so we play d4. And my opponent has everything memorized until here. We did play 7 moves of pure theory. And now he goes for h5. And as you saw, h5 is not in my course, but I know that this is the plan. So let's go for the plan. And now we do see why my opponent played h5. It is to kick my queen, but I don't really care. And you can just, by the way, find the best move by process of elimination or by just thinking about what do I do in other variations. There are variations where the queen gets attacked and it just slides back to f2. But you can also think about this is a blunder, this is a blunder, this is a blunder, this is a blunder. This blunders the queen via this tactic. So that's a blunder. These are blunders. And that also blunders the queen. So we cannot move there or we will lose the queen. We can obviously also not take because the pawn would take back. And now you just gotta look like, where do I want to move the queen? Well, e2, the knight wants to develop, so that's also not possible. This would just block the bishop, so that doesn't look all too good. And this would stop us from castling the king. So what is the only other option? Going to f2, indeed. So you can find the best move like that, or just know the patterns of the position. Way easier. And then he plays f5. It's quite funny that it was the best move, 3 moves in a row, and then my opponent plays it and it is not a good move. You do have to understand that my opponent tries to trap the bishop with knight to e2, c4, but we still defend e5, so we can just go to e5. If my opponent in this position plays something like g6, we really gotta understand that he is trying to trap the bishop, but after castles and c4, we have takes, which is stronger than a hanging bishop, and then this is undefended, and that is called moving with initiative. We castle and line up our queen to the f pawn with a very, very big threat. So he can execute his plan, but our plan is stronger, and that is called the initiative. But we will go uh, way deeper in the future. I mean, in like 2 minutes, but you know what I mean. So he kicks our bishop, and we can trade it off. Here, our opponent took our knight, and actually taking with the queen or the king only differentiates 0.1 according to the engine, but I think it's really, really important. The engine wants us to take like this. He kicks, then we get a great move. In my variation, we didn't get a great move. Disgusting. Yes, I will cry about it. And after he develops, we castle, but now we don't have a threat. And after you move, we make this random threat. You defend it. We have to put our queen back on f3 to make this threat. But it came from f2, so it doesn't really make sense to put it on f3 now. Why did we waste a move doing this if it was on the perfect file already? Well, only to castle the king. So in this position, wait, this position, you have to think about, do I want to take and then waste another move? Or do I want to take with the king, put my rook on f2, and give up a lot of my king's safety because our king is very safe on g1 and a bit less safe in the center? So, do I want to give up my king's safety to not waste time, have a lot of pressure, and be very, very fast? I would always argue yes. Always, basically. Um, Wasting time is always bad, even if it is for a king's safety. And I would argue in this locked of a center, it's very fine. Our king is still safe enough. So if he were to be able to break open the center, then it's a completely other story. Maybe then the king's safety is worth the one move. But I think that we are very much pressuring him, and as long as we keep up the pressure to him, he will not be able to attack our king, and it is quite safe in the center. So I would always give up my king's safety for the activity and attacks. And now I will show you what I mean with moving with initiative. So my opponent, you could argue, moves with initiative. He is making his structure better and gaining a threat. So I have to defend my bishop, run away with my bishop. So I cannot do anything practical to attack him. Now he plays knight to d7, the best move, and I do f rook to f1. Why rook to f1? Well, the engine wants to play rook to b1, which only attacks a pawn, and I did miss something here. I really thought that this knight goes to d7, trying to go to b6 just to defend his weak pawn. But really, this knight does not want to go there. This knight just wants to hang around, maybe wrap around like this, maybe trade itself off if it can, maybe even sack in the center in the future if he can, like castle, get his rook on the e file, sack his knight for two pawns to attack my king. That's all very, very possible. So this knight does not actually want to go to b6. I thought rook to b1 attacks the pawn, but you can push the pawn. And what is my rook doing here? It's not going here. What's the point of that? And see here, the best move is queen to f3, just pressuring this, and the knight will have to rotate over to defend it, which is not what he wants to do. So I saw that this is only threatening one pawn, but probably he wants to move the knight here, which is not correct, but what I thought. So I move my rook to f1 because I am improving my position. I'm improving my rook. I have more activity now. I have a battery on a weak pawn, and this is a move with initiative. So a lot of chess teachers will just tell you to move with initiative, but they never explain it clearly. I will explain it to you very, very, very clearly. So, what moving with initiative is that you improve your position while making threats. And you force your opponent to defend in ways that he does not want to defend so that you can keep pushing your plans. The difference between rook to b1 and rook to f1, in my opinion, in game, I thought the knight wanted to go to b6. So if I play rook to b1, attacking the pawn, the knight could go to b6, which I thought was a good move. And this is defended, so I didn't really move with a threat. That's not initiative. I improved my position, you could argue, but he wanted to play this anyway, so I didn't really force a defensive measure. Rook to f1, on the other hand, forces him to play f5 apparently, which is a move I think I missed, to be honest. This is breaking open the center, which is actually quite good. Now the knight maneuver makes sense, and now my king is actually not incredibly safe in the center anymore, so that is the best move. But I really thought that he would just have to defend the pawn with something like castles, which is an inaccuracy, maybe rook to h7, which he doesn't want to play at all, or maybe rook to f8, which just anchors his king in really, really weird. And then we have the tactic of they both have to defend the pawn, so we can attack a defender which cannot move. So I really thought that this had way more initiative than rook to b1, and I really, really want you to understand this because this is very, very important. And also, you probably heard about the initiative thing, but then thought, well, okay, let's make some one move threats, and then the engine still hates your game, and you don't understand why, because you constantly make threats, but it's not good. And there is a difference between initiative and actual threats. You maybe move with some threats. I mean, they're not really threats in this position. Like this is a one move threat, but it serves a long term purpose of if the rook moves, I can attack this, so you will have to give up the rook for absolutely nothing, and some actual long term threats. So the point is that I play this with the threat of checkmate, by the way. He will have to defend it very, very awkwardly. He doesn't want to defend like that. Plus, imagine it didn't come with a threat. Imagine there was just like a pawn defending this somehow. I would still want my rook on the f1 square. So, if you want to move with initiative, it means improving your position and playing moves that you probably wanted to play, even though they didn't even come with initiative. And then the initiative is a very big advantage because you are playing moves that you wanted to play anyway, but now your opponent has to defend awkwardly. And that's exactly how you make 1900 collapse. Because now he castles in panic because he thought he just messed up. And now I can again attack a defender And now my opponent really messes up. My opponent only thought about takes, and now I don't have this threat. But by the way, the knight is hanging, so the queen is defending two things which are both attacked. That means that probably an overload tactics exists. So I could take, and if queen takes, take the knight, and that's a free piece. I could also take the rook, and if you take back with the knight, I can take this. If you take with the king, taking with the queen would be checkmate. And if you take with the queen, I can still take your knight. So I took, apparently taking the bishop was a bit better. After queen takes and knight takes, bishop takes knight. The engine likes this more. Um, I don't know. To be honest, I would rather be up the rook and the knight than only a knight. I don't know. So after take and take, I'm now also up a um, knight. So I'm up the exchange and I still have this insane pressure. And after rook to d8, maybe the only difficult move I found was e6. But you should think about I am up the exchange and um also, oh no, I'm just up a rook. I'm now up a clean rook because I was up the exchange and I got a piece. So I'm a clean rook up. And you really should know how to convert this. Converting this is quite easy, but other chess teachers don't actually tell you how to do it. So this battery practically pins this pawn to the queen, not because we would win the queen, but just because we would exchange a lot of pieces, which is obviously in our favor because then it's a very, very easy game. So we want to trade queens and the rook, and this pawn is pinned to that trade, so we can play e6 to attack this pawn, defend our bishop. If he wants to give up the rook, we are now up a rook and the exchange, so that is probably not the best. And if he takes, we can just trade everything, so we can take, and take and just be up a rook. And by the way, let me show you how to convert this against the engine. So I will only play top engine moves and what I would probably play. So I would play my rook to the open file, and you will play queen to e7, king to e7. And here it is very, very important. So I always tell you the difference between a winning position and a win condition. A winning position is being up a rook, for example, but a win condition is only a passed pawn or a checkmating attack because that is exactly the only two ways you can win a game of chess. So if I take, I now have this passed pawn and I will use this passed pawn to win the game. In this position, I would, for example, play rook, bishop to e4. First of all, because I make this force field that the king cannot activate. Second of all, I prepare my pawn to push. Third of all, you cannot defend this pawn. And if I can take this pawn, I have a passed pawn in the center and I have a pawn majority on the king side. So bishop to d8, for example, I now can, for example, just infiltrate with my rook, which is fantastic. And after the top engine move, I would argue to play king to d2 here. Just defend the pawn because you really don't need complications. You are winning. If you are winning, you really don't want complications. Top engine move is bishop to b6, and I would argue to just give a check, take a free pawn, and after bishop to c7, give a check and actually sack the rook. Why sack the rook? Because we have a passed pawn, a pawn majority, and the extra bishop. So the extra bishop will just serve as a shield against the king to protect pawns and to defend against his passed pawns if we blunder a passed pawn. So I will play d5 here just to pressure this because you really got to think about this is a passed pawn, which means that this king is locked inside of this cage. He cannot leave this cage or we will promote the pawn. And because he cannot leave this cage, we can just wait and move our king anywhere we want, and he will not be able to defend. So, for example, this pawn leaves the king in this cage, which means that if we win the h pawn because of our infinite king activity, we can just push our h pawn, and he will never be able to take it and defend the d pawn, which is very easy. So, top engine move, I would suggest h5, which is actually quite bad, but not really, because the top engine move is h4, but h4 does a couple of things. It freezes this pawn, but it makes it especially that we cannot really play g4 because of en passant. Now he has a passed pawn, and that's something else I really, really want to teach you. If you are losing, you should fight for a win condition. If you are losing and you play a game out very, very slowly, your opponent will always win if he doesn't blunder, but you shouldn't play prey on your opponent blundering. So you really should force your opponent to blunder, and the only way to do so is win conditions. If you are losing, invest in win conditions and try to get a win condition. And the reverse is also very true. If you are winning, you really should try to make a win condition while making sure that it is impossible for your opponent to make a win condition. So even though our bishop perfectly defends against g2, I really don't want to give him a win condition at all cost. I don't care. If my king runs here and I somehow blunder this bishop, all of a sudden I'm losing. And probably that won't happen to me, but I just want to be sure. So I really don't want that to happen. So let's say king to e3, just going for this pawn. He can activate the king. I will also activate the king, and this is exactly already what I show you. If this is the cage of the king, he can't come close to this pawn. We will win this pawn. We will push the h pawn, and if he takes the h pawn, our d pawn will promote, and that's already it. So the top engine move b4, we can just take, and after the king just moves, we will just take this. We can always take, and now it's just over. We have this pawn, we have this pawn, and we have this pawn, and you already cannot stop an h pawn and a d pawn at the same time, because if you take, this promotes. So this is already very over. And then you just go for a checkmate, and that's it. Uh, I would argue that e5 is maybe the best move, to be fair, because the only way our opponent wins is because of these three pawns. It's the only thing he has. So he has to try and sacrifice everything to make one of these pawns a passed pawn. Probably a5 is the best try, so that after the king moves like this and b4, take and take, now we do have the option of messing up. For example, if we touch the a pawn, we create a 2-on-1. Let's say somehow a3 makes sense. We are already losing. So let's say we defend this pawn, right? He can also play b3. b3 is already annoying because after take and take, now he has a passed pawn. If he can bully away our bishop, maybe go here to support the pawn, he can try to win the game like that. Obviously, it doesn't work. But again, this was a way to lose. If we play a3 for some reason, obviously it doesn't make sense, but let's say now he has a passed pawn and he's winning. Even though we are up 4 points of material, if we won 5, by the way, we have 3 passed pawns, but he has the strongest passed pawn, and that's it. The game is over. We just lose. So that is really what you should keep in mind. Don't allow any, but any counterplay. Don't allow any win condition for your opponents when you are winning. So again, converting this against the engine, I could even make this mistake and now, yeah, just run the king. And even if this happens, take here, go for this pawn, top engine move, take this pawn, whatever this is, take. And now just put the king here, push this pawn. If he wants to stop that pawn, this pawn will run. Because now, by the way, the boxes this because of this pawn. So we can also just push this pawn and like we will promote and then checkmate. So really learn this concept and learn a lot of the queen versus king checkmate and endgame techniques, and just like that you will win a lot of games. That's not what happened in the game though. Our opponent played f5 and we again played the best move. And you could say like, this is so weird. How did I find just slide the queen one square? And it is the top engine move. But it is again moving with initiative. It's always the same. I'm attacking the bishop, I'm attacking this pawn, and I gain a lot of activity. That's it. So I'm just trying to move with threats while constantly improving my position. Here I didn't see queen to e7 though, because this defends the bishop, but also sets up the spin so that my bishop is not defended anymore. So that is quite annoying. And here you could think about, I want to sidestep this spin, but how will you sidestep this spin? You cannot go here because of the bishop. You cannot go here because of the pawn. If you go to d1, you disconnect the rooks, which stops your activity because connecting the rooks is very important. Staying on this file does not make sense, and these two king moves block your rook. So I will want to keep maximum activity so I don't sidestep the pin. I actually go queen to c7, which is not the top engine move. The top engine move was just to counterattack his bishop, and it's actually pinned to the g pawn. So you should take, then I can take. I don't take. I do this. And apparently this is a big threat. I sidestep to defend. Damn, this is weird and tactical. I would never advise those complications in a winning endgame. We are upper rook. There is no way to sack our bishop and win his bishop back in like 5 moves. Um, yeah, I don't know. If this happens and you take, I would just probably take, even giving you this pawn with a check. The one issue again is that either you disconnect the rooks. Oh, why is this bad? That's fine. King moves. Now we again move with a threat and get a more active position. Now he has to trade queens. Obviously, we take the queen trade because that makes our life easy. And now we will just improve our position with a threat again. Now this rook cannot move. And we can probably just infiltrate like this, making this pawn not defendable. This is the top engine move. Let's convert this. So again, I'm moving with more pressure, more threats, and more activity. Top engine move is this, and then I would just, again, improve my rook with a threat. Top engine move. And now I would take with the least active rook, which is probably the B rook. If you have to choose with what piece do I take, take with the least active rook, which is this. And now again, we made a win condition, a passed pawn. But we do have to think about our opponent has a better structure on the queen side and he has an extra pawn on the king side. So supporting this pawn break and then trying to trade these pawns off to create a passed pawn is probably our opponent's plan. We do have to keep that in mind. So top engine move. Um, would I take a free pawn? I'm not sure. I would really try to stop his counter play. Let's take a free pawn, why not? So supporting this is probably the best, but that if he plays this, he just loses the f pawn, so he pushes the f pawn first. Then I would, what would I do here? I would actually try to gang up on this. So his only counterplay is trading something off to make a passed pawn. This rook blockades everything, and we can also just do this to blockade this pawn, to pressure this. This is the top engine move. I would just take, and now attack the pawn. I don't care about check, I believe. This is the top engine move, giving away this pawn. And now we have two passed pawns after check. Yeah, I would just go towards the center, even though this just gives up more, and now just sacrificing the rook in one move is the top engine move. Exactly what I told you, it's weird. So let's say you take this because giving up your rook in one move does not make sense. And then we already win this pawn, and you have to be very lucky not to get mated. The engine wants to give a check, that's just repetition. What? Why are we repeating? Oh, now you take. We take, you have to move. And then we can probably give a check if we want. Oh, we can set up a ladder mate. So he has to defend. And then we push our passed pawn, win this one, have two connected passed pawns. That was not my line, so let's go back. I mean, if I have to follow the engine line, we do this. Oh, you're setting up a stalemate trick. That's disgusting. We cannot take this, so we have to run here. Check. We still cannot take. Check. And now we go here so that we can block with the rook. So if you do this, we block. Check. Move. Check. Move. Check. Move. Check. Now take the pawn. Yeah, now I would make this threat so that you don't have the stalemate trick anymore. Was this the top engine move? And then we just take, yeah, probably like this. And then after check, I would attack the rook, to be honest. You go here. And to be fair, this is already a very winning king and pawn endgame. I would just sack the rook, push this pawn, and we will win like that. Top engine move is this, so let's push the pawn, and he is outside of the box, so we will promote. And by the way, our pawns and king make it so that you cannot infiltrate anywhere and you cannot attack anything. So we can just push and keep pushing the pawn. We will promote and like that win the game. So that is how I convert against the engine. Sacking the rook will probably not be the best move, but it leads to a very, very simple position. So let's do that. And that's how you use the concept of a win condition very, very practically to even convert against the engine. So that's not really what happened. This happened, you did this, and I infiltrated with the queen. And then you sacked, and I just take. I don't know why you sacked. And now after this, I could have taken a free pawn, but now I move and improve my rook again with initiative. You defend everything, and now I just make this move. I'm just waiting, basically. You cannot really improve your position all too much, and I really want to open up files again. Initiative and making my pieces more active. You should always think about, can I improve a piece? And if you cannot improve a piece, you probably should make a pawn break. Maybe I could have improved the piece like this. I could have taken a pawn, but really I want to trade queens. So maybe a move like rook to b5 makes a bit more sense. You move the bishop. Now I open this up. After take and take, you already give up. I mean, I can just, after take, sack this apparently. Because after this, I have... Oh, I can pin this. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, so you cannot take this because I can sack, luring your king and queen on the same file, and rook f1 wins the queen. So really, you cannot move anything. If you move this, for example, I can just take. After takes, I will get more checks and a free pawn. Apparently, this is a maiden 7. Ow. Oh, check. Yeah, that's annoying. You move here, check, take, and now check. Here, rook sacrifice. Not the rook sacrifice. This rook sacrifice makes it that you have to take and we have a free queen, and then we have check, you have to move, and then we push the pawn with checkmate. Apparently there's something faster with queen check, king moves, rook check. That's disgusting. And now queen takes his mate because of the pawn taking away d7. Damn, I'm very happy I know that checkmating pattern now. So our opponent just resigns because he practically doesn't have a move. We will break open his king or he loses the queen. We always have checks. We can always trade. We have this passed pawn, which is strong. We have these targets, open lines, this target with a rook maybe to create another passed pawn. Um, this is very, very easy. We are just up the exchange and a rook. So we being up the exchange and a rook is not a win condition yet, I would argue, unless you have a very, very clear checkmate. The way you convert is just the same by making passed pawns. That's why taking this with the queen was constantly the best move because I just create two passed pawns. Then I just move the queen and start pushing the pawns, and that's how you convert this easily. That's why actually I should have taken probably because I just create more win conditions. I can move my queen, start pushing the pawns. Is this a good move? Maybe not because this. So let's go back and then king moves, push the passed pawn. You can trade or push the passed pawns, doesn't matter. You do this to start some counterplay, but after check. Here, can I sack? Yes, I sack a pawn because after queen takes, pawn takes, king takes. We can win this pawn or that pawn. We will have connected passed pawns or a protected passed pawn. And again, how to convert this against the engine. I would defend. You go here. I would take. And then what do? You take this pawn. I don't really care. Giving a check is a blunder. So let's cut the king off indeed. You do this. I would probably reinforce with my king. Yeah, okay, fair enough. I would probably just take. Oh, no, don't take the file like that. Let's do this just to try and activate, which I cannot do. That's a good move. I would activate the king. Can I sack the rook? Probably, right? So here, here, here. And then I can push. You have to come closer and I can take. Yeah, I would sack the rook, I believe. And now this is not counterplay, it's a 2-on-1, but I control it very, very well. You want to sack this pawn for no reason, making my structure even better. Now I would push my protected passed pawns and connected pawns. That's a free pawn, I will just take it. That's a free pawn, I will just take it. And now I have so many passed pawns, I would probably just cut the king and pre-move this. Don't pre-move too much. Um, yeah, here he gives away, but I mean, he will just have to make some random moves. Let's push actually. You come here, and now you can just pre-move this and promote to a rook, and that's how you checkmate the engine and convert this position a lot of material up. So that was a very, very long and deep analysis. I hope that was very instructive and I earned your subscription. And other than that, I will see you in the next one.